Welcome back to the news at 10. The Supreme Court has dismissed an appeal filed by one engineer Yin Manhaja challenging the nomination and subsequent election of Governor Ibrahim Gaidam of Yobe State. In the appeal, which had earlier been thrown out by the Federal High Court and the Appeal Court, Engineer Manhaja alleged that Governor Gaidam forged his first school leaving certificate, which he submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission, contrary to the Electoral Act. He also said that having completed the tenure of late Maman Ali, his predecessor, who died in office in 2009, Governor Gaidam was not qualified to serve another term in office. The Supreme Court unanimously threw out the appeal for lacking in merit. Meanwhile, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has entered into a partnership with the Bayelsa State government to build a power plant in the state. Speaking when he received Governor Seriake Dixon of Bayelsa State in his office, the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Mr. Maikanti Baru, said that the corporation was prepared to invest in the project as a shareholder. Mr. Baru also expressed interest in the state's brass fertilizer company and added that the power plants would be built at the Bayelsa State proposed industrial park. The state has also indicated its interest to acquire an oil prospecting license whenever an oil license bid round is conducted.
And all of us need to work together so that the current ongoing efforts succeed, so that Nigerians from all walks of life will have a better lease of life. A better lease of life. We can see the great effort that you and your team and the federal government are putting in that direction. So I assure you of Bayelsa's continuing commitment to work with you, to work with operating companies, to work with agencies of the federal government, to work with community and opinion leaders, religious leaders, youth leaders, and mobilize all available resources to ensure that we continue to stabilize the operating environment, stabilize the state, to allow for optimal use, optimal benefit from the available resources.
Bayelsa State Governor Seriake Dixon. The Anambra State Governor Willie Obiano has handed over documents of ownership of land to the Nigerian police for the establishment of number 54 Squadron Mobile Police Force Barracks in Aguleri, Anambra State East Local Government Area. Receiving the documents during the foundation laying ceremony of the barracks, the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, said this will ensure that crime is tackled effectively in the state.
The Inspector General of Police inspects the Guard of Honor in Anambra State before moving to the Governor's Lodge to meet with State Governor Willie Obiano. He is here to witness the flag-off of Police Force Space in Aguleri, where number 54 Squadron Mobile Police Force Barracks will be built. The Inspector General of Police commends Governor Obiano for taking security as one of his priorities.
You are one of the governors that have brought a lot of innovations into security. The way you partner with the local communities. And that's why you don't hear about herdsmen, farmers clash in the Anambra State. In a few months' time, I pray to be here to commission the building for the 54 mobile police squadrons.
The state governor once again reaffirms his commitment to improving security and hands over the documents of land entitlement to the police boss.
Nice for you to know that the land we are giving the IG today is over 182,000 square meters. The Aguleri community are presenting this land free of charge to the Nigerian police as their contribution to improving of security in Anambra State.
He also hands over 50 motorbikes with communication gadgets for easy information dissemination, as well as protective kits for the policemen that will use the motorbikes.
I
believe that you're one of those governors that will help to subdue criminality in Nigeria.
The foundation stone of number 54 Squadron Police Mobile Force Barracks is laid, with high hopes that in no distant time the project will be completed to strengthen the existing security in the state.
For our daily dose of activities in the world of business, here's Anne Mawodo.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi, and welcome to Business News. The National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, says it has cut down registration fee for locally made items by 50%. The move, which is in line with the federal government's ease of doing business agenda, aims to promote small and medium-scale enterprises and grow the economy. NAFDAC's latest policy also looks to terminate agreements with fee collections following the discovery of illegal charges under the deal. Meanwhile, the agency has reaffirmed that waivers on young graduate business registration schemes remains intact. The Nigerian equities market ended the week in the green as the all-share index rose 349%, with support from buying interest on the banking tickers. Chimezie Obiwagu tells us more.
Hello and welcome to Stock Market Report. The Nigerian equities market is on steroid, I must say. Today, the index went up by as much as 3.49%, crossing the 30,000 psychological mark to close at 31,371.63. The market capitalization gained by 378 billion naira today alone, bringing the total market value at the doorstep of 11 trillion naira. Analysts say the reason for this is not far-fetched from Thursday's news that Nigeria's weighting in the MSCI Frontier Index has increased to 7.9% from 6.5%. Our gains cut across all the sectors. 51 stocks posted gains, while just 8 posted declines. The highest gainer in percentage terms is CAP. The share price went up by as much as 10.23%. Corn Oil and FBN Holdings came second and third on the table. Amongst the 8 price decliners, Law Union was number 1, shedding 8.16% of its share price. University Press and CNI Leasing followed apiece. Total volume increased from Thursday's close to 708.4 million shares, valued at 8.25 billion naira in 6,039 deals. Major volume drivers remain the banking sector, with Diamond Bank, FBN Holdings and UBA at the top. And that was the stock market report. I'm Chimezie Obiwagu.
U.S. stocks opened slightly higher today, with the major averages hitting new all-time highs at the beginning of trade. VOA Channel's TV business correspondent Jill Malandrino tells us factors that will shape the performance of Wall Street this month.
It has actually been higher 59% of the time versus 33% when the index started below the 200-day moving average. Now, of course, there's always the overhang of what's happening in Washington, D.C. Despite all of the noise that comes out of it, nothing has really changed in terms of policy, particularly with health care and tax reform. So it's really hard to establish what direction the White House is going in. In addition, we're essentially in an earnings vacuum until the middle of July. So the focus is really going to be on what's happening in more of the macro environment. Now, if we look at the back half of June, this is where things could potentially get interesting. On June 14th, the FOMC will announce its interest rate hike decision, and there's roughly an 85% chance rates will move higher. That's according to Fed Fund futures. Then on June 16th, we have a quad-witch options expiration, which means that 4 different classes of options will be expiring. We also have the S&P and Russell indices rebalancing. And of course, the close of the quarter on June 30th. So it's going to be a little bit slow next week, but you can bet the back half of the month is really where you're going to see some volume come back into the market as we have all these macro data points on the calendar. From the NASDAQ market site in New York, I'm Jill Malandrino, and this is VOA Channel's Business News.
And markets across the world defied the weak U.S. job report, which was released today, as equities rallied globally ahead of Fed's monetary policy meeting. Let's see the numbers. And that rounds up business news on the last trading day of the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. It's back to you, Marachi.
Thanks a lot, Anne. The wheel of anti-corruption campaign in Nigeria is turning despite the challenges, so says the Executive Secretary of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Corruption, Professor Bolaji Owosonoye, who was the guest of honor at a roundtable on corruption. The discussion with the theme, The Grim Battle for the Soul of a Nation Undergoing Corruption-Induced Hemorrhage, was organized by the Association of Yorubas in Diaspora in South Africa.
The Buhari administration clocks due. The much headlined fight against corruption is what readily comes to mind when counting what has been done. But then there are divided views on the fight's actual achievements so far, as well as how the fight is being fought. The Secretary of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Corruption, Professor Bolaji Owosonoye, outlined what is being done. He didn't leave out the challenges too.
There is no quick win, especially in this area. We are strengthening the asset recovery processes, and that is working very well. But at the same time, government is also focusing on the areas of prosecution.
There were many questions, suggestions and solutions proffered by participants, from those who wanted to know how Nigerians abroad can be part of the anti-corruption crusade, to those who know where to start cleaning up the nation's act with regard to corruption.
The image of Nigeria is first seen by investors when you get to the Nigerian airport. If you look at the Nigerian airport, for instance, if you travel frequently, you will discover that most of the staff that we have there are more like Alimejaris. It is happy weekend, happy Salah, happy that, and they make things difficult for investors to do.
The present Nigerian youth doesn't know what is right. They live in an environment whereby they don't see stealing, they don't see corruption as anything that is wrong. They see it as normal. We need to actually focus so much on the youth. So the youth of a nation is the future of that nation.
Are we running a system that fuels corruption? The answer is yes. And so we are trying to dismantle it in different ways. Now, some of these platforms that have been included in our system that are meant to promote equality and justice have been perversely used, like federal character.
Professor Owosonoye has since returned to Nigeria, but the citizens who listened to what he had to say are looking beyond government for stopping corruption and the problems it creates for the country.
It's not going to be a very easy battle to fight, but you just have to start from somewhere.
You know, when you want to take a decision, you think of the implication, not only for yourself, but for people around you. I think there's less of that now. I think that's we got it wrong that way.
The roundtable generally agreed that the fight against corruption is a walk that must not be abandoned at any point, and a walk every citizen must walk. From Pretoria, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.